Welcome to the Butterfly Tribe, where independent minds gather and sovereign voices are heard. This is a space where truth is not silenced, perspectives are valued, and every voice matters. Free from judgment, free from stigma, united through awareness. Welcome home, Butterfly. We've been expecting you. I also want to add that this money-based system has been taken over by usury. You cannot use usury towards Jews, only towards the Goyim. And what usury is that if you have a mortgage, then you have to pay rent on that mortgage. Mortgage literally means in French, death pledge.
What are all these soldiers that are sent? There's 200,000 NATO soldiers that died in Ukraine. Not many people know this, but that there's as many NATO soldiers that are not Ukrainian that died in Ukraine as there are Russians that died in Ukraine. Yeah, this is the numbers, and the Ukrainians are way more because they're being pushed with zero training and into this massive killing fields that have been created.
They produce everything here, actually. All the products that we sell in Europe for thousands of euros, here you can get for $10, right? To give you an example, I bought these shoes at a master shoemaker. Guess how much? In Europe, this would cost 300 euros.
I know, because you told me.
Yeah, you know I know. Welcome, Butterfly, to another episode of Tribe Radio and the Butterfly Tribe. Yesterday we had a conversation and we spoke about Jewish law, duality, and the foundational intentions of our tribe. Today we are in this second episode, and as an introduction, I would like to share some experiences I've recently experienced, so we can bring you, our audience, with us in the process of growing and building the foundations of our tribe. More and more people are contacting me via social media, Facebook, Instagram, that want to have conversations with me about the narratives of Jewish supremacy. And what's interesting is that these people are Jewish themselves. To those people, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your open-mindedness, because I believe this creates an opportunity for the collective to heal these raw topics that are completely manipulated and dominated by a small group of satanic pedophiles, right? So to these people, I want to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to have these conversations with you. You can always contact us. We can do this in a threesome interview, or just you and me, if you feel more comfortable with that. So yeah, I've been building our platform. It should be ready in a couple of weeks. And I have a little bit of a headache, but that's okay. I already shared this with my brother Ruben, and Ruben is going to lead this conversation. Because Ruben, you had a topic you want to talk about, and that is vision. The stage is yours, brother.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We talked about the circle, and that is the central aspect, as our ancestors actually in the Germanic cultures, but I think everywhere in the world, I'm pretty sure everywhere in the world, had the central circle of the community, where they came together at the fire and they openly spoke, and the elders gathered with the elders, the men with the men, the women with the women, the whole community together. there were all sorts of forms of that. The Vikings called this the ting, by the way, which I find a really nice name because it's very close to thing.
Yeah.
And as soon as we deal with things, the world of matter, time, space, we need a circle because we become relative to each other. So the absolute, the one within, needs to mirror itself. So automatically the thing, the central thing, the thing is the thing, the circle.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful, beautiful concept that is eternally true and will never change. This will always be how human civilization functions. So the moment we start limiting that expression, we limit reason and we lose our way. So this is also the central foundation of true religion, because religion means to reconnect. We need to reconnect to ourself, the one, and each other, to keep the peace, to keep freedom as well of the individual within that truth, that everyone is part of that reflection of the one, which requires honesty, because the moment someone is disconnected and chooses to lie to others based on form or based on some kind of other, well, form, prejudice, there's a pocket of secrecy. The shadow is kept, ignorance, that part that is kept away, the hidden agenda.
Yeah, and then it becomes a cult instead of a community.
Yeah, it's a split. It's a gap. It's a gap between us. And that's the hardening, that's the polarization, that's where violence comes from. So in our, humans in general, groups of humans as well as the individual, need a vision. We are led by vision per definition. There is some kind of dot on the horizon that drives our actions. Something we stand for, that we strive towards. When we don't have that clear, we will fall for anything that gives us short-term gratification of our lusts, of our desires. So in this world today, this modern system, so to say, which is the caterpillar, right? We're moving towards the butterfly. We're in this pressure cocoon, the chrysalis now. And in that caterpillar, what has been normalized is an image of wealth that is not based on health and happiness, but on money, the economy, a money-based economy, and technological progress, technological advancement. So we see the first world, usually the modern world, the West, but also the Asian tigers, right? The countries that came up really fast and have a lot of, actually more modern cities than the Western world has. They are seen as the wealthy in this story of our world. And the third world, where people live in financial poverty in general, is seen as the less, or the wealthy world. And that image is flawed, the way I see it, because when we look at the eternal values and what our ancestors consider to be wealth, many of these so-called third world countries, especially the people who still live a community-based tribal lifestyle, so the small communities within Africa, for example, Latin America, that are not in the big cities, in the slums, of course, because that's a horrendous life. But if you live connected to your local community, roots intact, shared stories and traditions, a culture, it's still your own people. They have big families. They have a lot of wealth, in a sense of they even own their own land. It's just a hut with a little piece of land where they do their agriculture, but they have a lot more than the average Western person has.
Nowadays,
and,
yes. Yeah.
In this sense.
Yeah.
In the traditional sense. And that is what makes us happy and healthy. A sense of purpose, a a sense of honor, that we need to be honest to each other, open in our community. So that circle, even that is still functioning in some communities in the so-called third world. And a sense of belonging that comes from that. And from that sense of belonging, first of all, of course, to the one. Again, this spiritual development is not necessarily there. Of course, this is something we are all worldwide. This is not the norm yet, but we're moving towards that butterfly. But there's also a sense of belonging that's rooted in this tribal identity, which is also very important and gives us a zest for life and an urge to contribute, to do something for our community. It holds us in line. It channels that ego to be productive, to be a hero to our local community, if you wanna call it that. You know, someone who does good, who helps, who takes pride in being a good person for our surroundings and our loved ones. And when we're conscious, of course, we realize, like the body is nature, that if we're good for our local community, that also radiates to the rest of the world. It's never bad for the rest of the world to be to be good for your local community. The two go together. There is no battle between those. Just like as an individual, in reality, I cannot profit from my surroundings at the cost of it, because that means I'm denying an aspect of myself. Because it's all
very, very true. And what
related.
comes up in me right now is there is a distortion created by our money-based system. We won't let me not go into the details of how money usually was used, gold backed, etc. That's not relevant for now. It's more like the aspect of money, what money really is. And I believe that the most precious thing we have in our lives is our time. And this time is being consumed by the same systems that force us to pay taxes, force us to exchange this valuable energy, life energy and time that we have in this world for paper, right? And this paper is then manipulated by these institutions. And a lot of people that follow us talk about money as being a root of evil. I do understand this perspective, but I do not completely agree, because money is also energy. But it is very understandable that people look at it that way, because they are in a lack of this money, while it's actually a tool for us. Because, for instance, if I would give you a service or you would give me a service, I want to give you something back. We would do that with gold and silver or another service, right? Something that you value as being equal to the value you are giving me. So that's where I think when we talk about vision, is something we can talk about. What would be a solution for people to get out of that system, you know? Because I haven't paid taxes for all my life. I haven't paid taxes, and a lot of people still believe that it is not possible to do that without being imprisoned, you know. But yeah, that's a whole other story. But what maybe do I inspire you right now into something, a vision?
Well, it's big topics that you're mentioning, and personally, I could still learn a little bit from you on the practical aspect of how to go about that with money right now in these times. I'm thinking in eternity, and I'm comparing time-bound, so matter, space, time, ego-bound structures that have a dead end, And I see that this money system, the way it is, and the way it has been building up, is a dead end. First people paid each other, as the word salary comes from salt, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the Roman soldiers that got their salary. So it started already, in a way, with an imbalance, where this military cult that we call the Romans, because they had 20 years of military service, the Roman men, they were very, very conquest oriented, and they destroyed a lot of people native people in Europe that were living a very harmonious circle-based life. And this is all part of the development that we're going through, like we said in the last podcast, of the realization of what is good, what is evil. It's all a lesson in that sense. Yet that is where that first widespread concept of money originates from, in Europe at least. Before that, already in the Middle East, there were older empires like Mesopotamia, Babylonia, where they were also dealing with gold, silver, and these kind of things. But over time, of course, it has gotten less and less real. Because before salt, people valued the earth for the minerals. Everything comes out of the earth. The plants come out of the earth. The animals eat the plants. We eat the plants and the animals. Some of us think, they don't want to eat anything from the animals, but I don't see them thriving personally, but that's another topic again. But very close to reality, because everything comes from the earth, so the earth is valued. So farms that were sold, the value was represented by how much fertile soil they had and how much manure was produced. So the fertility, the actual thing that we need to sustain life and to get this life force optimized and strengthen our bodies, and the body is the temple. Salt contains minerals, and it's you can store it forever, right? You can keep it. It kills bacteria. It stays. So that's a logical thing to deal in. Same then went to gold and silver. Well, those are precious metals, which also have this character trait that we cannot make it, and it stays forever. So there's a scarcity. So we can accept an actual value of the substance itself, but the moment that these banks hijacked the production, that there even was a production in that sense of that what we call money, actually created fake money. Like these papers that we have and these digital numbers, they are not real money, they are fake money. There's no actual backing of the value, even by a concept of scarcity. The scarcity is artificially produced because people have a monopoly on producing it. So the people that produce it create value out of nothing. And that means that they hijack that whole system, right? The whole infrastructure is there. So they, per definition, anyone who needs to exchange their time, as you said, their time and attention, right? The thing that we have, our energy, anyone who needs to exchange that in order to make money is per definition a slave of that system. And this is just a harsh reality of our times. But this does not mean that we cannot together use that money, that fake money, in order to create again real homestead-based communities where we have this fertile soil again and have clean elements, like the air, the water, have our evening fires, the sunlight to give us vitamin D, where we can live this life again that serves the true temple and is aligned to the temple, the body, our individual temple, the earth, our collective temple. We can use that money to align ourselves again. And there's many questions I still have myself in how to realize that process. But the fact that that process is what we need to realize, that's not a question anymore for me. That is the vision.
I agree, and I share your perspective in that, but I can also imagine that a lot of people would think like, yeah, but I mean, I need money to do that. I need money to buy land, to have my tools to work in the fields. You know, so on a practical note, I also want to add that this money-based system has been taken over by usury, and usury is actually outlawed by all the religions but the Jews. Jewish rabbis also say that you cannot use usury towards Jews, only towards the Goyim. Jesus also outlawed usury, or at least exposed usury. And what usury is that if you have a mortgage, then you have to pay rent on that mortgage. Mortgage literally means in French death pledge. So it's also a form of black magic, and that's a contract you sign, right? So what happens is, when you use money that is connected with usury, then you become literally a slave of that money. Many people in our history have tried to outlaw usury. Adolf Hitler has outlawed usury. And after 2-3 years, Germany was thriving in all aspects of society. Gaddafi, who was killed, also did that, and there are other brothers of him in other countries in Africa who did the same, and they were all taken out by these demonic forces that today control most of society. I just wanted to share this as a sort of a tutorial note, like what is money and what is the money that we use today. But to come back to the solution, I think I share your opinion in the way that we have to make sure you earn the money that you now earn, and make sure that you put that money to work for you. And there are still a lot of possibilities in that. But now it's all structured because you're still operating within that usury system. So that is why I, for example, have set up my business in Georgia, Tbilisi, where I only pay 1% tax, which for me is very. I find that very okay to do that. I can't find the word in English. Sorry. I had another word on my mind to say that I was okay with that. Very acceptable. I say it's a good deal. And same in Kuala Lumpur, where I am right now. But you have to get out of your comfort zone, and a lot of people, for them, it's that's a far too big leap for them. But then it's still a choice. It remains a choice. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I see usury as like if you think like most people think in this modern world, and to be clear, like this is not only the West, this is generally just worldwide, of course, how the system operates. Money. If you have a lot of money, you can use that money indeed to work for you. And I think that is what you need to do in order to put it to work for a bigger vision. That's the whole honor and the whole vision aspect of it. Because why Jesus was against usury, the way I understand this, is because usury makes it possible for people to not contribute to society. Because once you have a certain amount of gold and silver, which was still the money back then, you can lend it out and you get more back without doing anything. So you don't have to be an active participant in your community. So it creates a kind of caste, especially when they unite, as you said, as Jews in this example that you gave, and they say that they will use this with others, but not with each other. It means that they have this separation in their community that aims and strives not to contribute, but to have power over the others, because they collect the capital, because more capital comes back to them than what they lend out. But the others are taking this capital to build their companies and build their, set up things and work. And they are
Well,
just growing capital and have all their time to think together about how to control the world and how to expand this realm of control, which the intention is obvious already in the fact that they say that they don't use it on each other, but they do use it on others. This
yeah, plus
usury,
it also
right?
proves that they recognize it is immoral.
But this is why it's immoral. That's what I mean. Like because in this modern world, if you have a lot of capital, right? Like if I would have like 100 million, and I have this invested in all sorts of ways, and and someone comes to me, why would I lend my money to him? Like, yes, if it's a beautiful idea, I will invest in it anyway. I won't need this interest on it. But it also makes sense in this modern world. I mean, like if you separate it from the old communities and the way of nature and all of that, it does make sense that people who have capital now would want interest, because they're like, yeah, why would I lend it to this guy that I don't really know that well, right? Like if it doesn't give me anything, and actually when I keep the money, I can make more on it by letting it work for me in some other way. So it does make sense to have interest coming back to you when you give someone a loan in that
Yes,
aspect,
yes,
and
brother.
and
But if not, if you have the power to print a limited amount of
oh
money,
no, of course no. This is
right?
this is the
And
fake
this is a
argument.
very relevant
Yeah.
point.
No,
Um,
that's yes. That is if we go there, then yes. I mean, what are all these soldiers that are sent? There's 200,000 NATO soldiers that died in Ukraine, right? Not many people know this, but that there's as many NATO soldiers that are not Ukrainian that died in Ukraine as there are Russians that died in Ukraine. Yeah, this is the numbers, and the Ukrainians are way more because they're being pushed with zero training and into this massive like killing fields that have been created by the Russians to defend their realm actually, because it's all Russian in the east. So these people, these NATO soldiers, they're basically mercenaries, right? They're paid. They are paid quite a lot of money to go there. Um, they die there, many, but many also come back, and then the next round comes. That money does not necessarily come from actual economies that pay tax. A lot of it is printed money that the government lends and pays to them. But that's this growing debt, right? Of America, for example, and everywhere. These debts are eternally growing.
yeah.
The idea that will ever be paid is ridiculous. It's just a number. Debt to whom? It's just a number. What the only thing that it represents is money printing.
Yeah, and it
You know,
becomes the literal chains for the, let's say, the civilians who pay their taxes. I also share this perspective in that they don't really need our tax dollars or tax euros to fund all these wars because they can print it. uh,
exactly. Yeah, and
so
that's massive part of the inflation is that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it is really the chains. It is a tool to yeah to so we spill our valuable energy in paper, useless paper. But what's also interesting is to see the difference between cultures. Like I said, I'm in Kuala Lumpur, and I showed you the difference of expensiveness of objects here. Here, for instance, you have clothing shops and shoemakers, and they produce everything here. Actually, all the products that we sell in Europe for thousands of euros, here you can get for 20 and $10, right? To give you an example, I bought these shoes at a master shoemaker. Guess how much? In Europe, this would cost 300 euros.
Well, I know because you told me.
Yeah, you know, I know. So 30 euros. This cost me 30 euros. So, and it's the same with all these Louis Vuitton bullshit things that are also created in countries like China and India and whatever, and they sell it for thousands of euros per bag, right? So this is also, it's a scam, and they are geniuses, but it is also a form of usury, or just being smart, because if you want to invest so much of your value, precious time, money, in a useless object like that, like a Louis Vuitton bag, then you're just an idiot in my eyes. You know, because if you want to make your money work, you're far off going to invest in precious metals and in developing yourself, communities, valuable networks like the stuff that we are setting up. But yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Well, the money flow, that's what you're talking about in my eyes, because globalization, like produce things in the cheap regions and then funnel it to the regions where money is, how do you say that, worth less, actually, in a way, but like where people have more of it. And yeah, well, then they just fool people, right? They funnel this money, they pump up economies somewhere else, and they're just profiting. These people are just profiting off of the stupidity, in a way, and the ignorance of people in the richer nations. And richer just means, in this case, like more of this fake money, because we're not, like I said before, we're not really rich. We're not really having a thriving community. There's all sorts of like diseases that are also interlinked with modern life. You know, there's this whole idea that there will be this world full of. Oh, by the way, that's a point I still want to make. Also, the mass immigration. Sorry?
Alpha monkeys. Talk about.
Yeah,
that.
exactly. But yeah, first, like immigrants, right? The immigration from the so-called third world, like these endless streams of guys who just come to profit, mainly men. You know, like 70 to 90% are men in the military age category, right? They all get paid. They get paid to come here. They get financed to travel over here. When they're here, they get housing. They get put in hotels. They get pocket money to pay for their things. That's also all printed money, you know. And yeah, there's some tax money, but taxes are mainly put on us to put pressure on our community, so we cannot afford to have children, so we cannot afford to live. It's literally one big genocidal structure. And that whole funneling of money, like, and the wars that are paid like that, and these guys, that war in Ukraine is not about like resources or anything like that. It's about killing these people. That's what it's about. That's the actual goal of that war. And it's not the Russians who started it, like I said in the last podcast. But that's another topic. The vision, like what to bring it back to us, you know, like what is being presented to our young men of all colors as being strong, as being like successful, as being, what they should strive for, is basically what I call, what you just mentioned, an alpha ape. It's not a gentleman. It's not a gentleman. Yeah, you've got some guys who are mimicking the old English gentleman, who are dressing up a certain way and who are acting like they are gentlemen. But once they get offended, the aggressive ape comes out. But the whole idea of taking offense, right, is directly opposed to what the Stoics were, for example, about. Stoicism, right, which is about being non-reactionary, taming your emotions, controlling them, realizing that the emotion is within you. And the moment that you point the finger, you actually give away your power, because you acknowledge that the other is not just a trigger for your emotions, but is the actual cause of your inner feelings. So you make yourself a slave. It's a slave morality to react from that. So what they do, they present this through hip hop, through all this like different channels, this like alpha ape, bitches, money, bling bling. That's success, right? In their eyes, to show off your material wealth and the nice asses of the women that are around you, to show it off like you own them. Like that mentality is weakness. It's a lust, it's emotion, it's short-term gratification. And that attitude makes us distrust each other, because the other alpha ape wants to get your bitches, wants to get your money, wants to like steal your bling bling or have more than you, or it's all this weird comparison. Yeah. And that makes it so, adding the normalization of violence to it, which we see massively with the increase of MMA, and in Asia you have this like heavy fighting sports, and also on social media all the violence that is being normalized and the sadism of people laughing about people getting seriously hurt. That's all part of this program, and this program creates distance between us, right? Just like covering up your women and hiding them away is about that distance, because we get jealous, we don't trust each other. Yeah. Mine, my precious, the Gollum thing, yeah. So what it does, it kills the conversation, because we don't dare to step into the realm of reason anymore and lose the taboo and open up to each other, because we're afraid that the other would hurt us, because violence has been so normalized and it's not judged anymore. It's being celebrated by some communities. The Afro-American community in America is a very bad example of that. And hip-hop, gangster rap has a lot to do with that. And it doesn't come from their community itself. Yeah, it does, but it's been pumped up artificially. It's been given a big stage for 30 years now or longer to grow and to, what am I saying, like 40 years, and to just infect people's minds, waving guns at each other, like showing like it's a posturing. It's all fear-based. It's not how strong men are. The gentleman, the real man, is the one that is centered, that holds space, that makes the space safer for the women and children, but also for other men, for ourselves, makes it safer. Not in an over-controlling way, no helicopter parenting attitude, but by being capable, but reserved. We value human life. We know who we are.
Yeah.
We are
these
one.
These are also things we teach within our tribe, how to be a gentleman, how to balance your feminine polarity and your masculine polarity. Because if you look at people like Andrew Tate, he's like a clown version of what a man actually should be.
Absolutely.
And it is now framed as toxic masculinity. But this also creates a narrative towards our men, our Western men who think that actually being masculine is bad. This is how they control the narratives.
They don't know what masculine is anymore. It's like it's really. I mean, Andrew Tate has a lot of good points, but it's the tonality. There's something so screamy, so overshouting other people, you know, and this is the opposite of providing space. And the deeper, the calmer we can provide a space, and we can together like really, really aim to understand what does the other person mean and respect that silence that carries the words that we share in this field of presence, there any bullshit will be exposed. These spaces are holy, and holy means whole. Nothing is lacking, you know, presence is there. When there's two people that are present, like Christ said, when two or more gather in my name, I am in their midst. That's what it's about. And Christ is the God within us. So if we open up together, honestly searching for the truth in any situation, then it will reveal itself. We don't have to overshout each other. That's actually the very thing that keeps truth from revealing itself. The main truth that reveals itself then is that that person has issues.
Ja. Hoe noem je dat ook alweer? Dit zouden we uit kunnen knippen hoor. Dat mensen onzeker zijn. Hoe zeg je dat ook weer? Onzeker?
Insecure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually the insecurity of people that comes out whenever let's say a man reacts that way, in a violent way, right? It's just a mask to protect himself, his real feelings. Because a gentleman doesn't need to do that. And then we come back to stoicism, in which you just use eye contact and your aura to be present.
Yeah, and like all children and all animals know, you know, you like physical touch. Like seriously, most guys need a hug, you know, and it's not a fucking gay thing. It's like you just hug your bro, like, how are you, heart to heart, you know.
Yeah.
Like a real man is not afraid of this kind of stuff. This is also like it's our own, you know, these people that are like that, like, oh, I'm not a faggot, you know. Hey, why would you even go there? That is gay, you know. Like to even consider that there would be anything sexual between men, like, is out of my realm of perception. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, gay does not exist in my reality. You know, it's like it's a perversion of the mind, and I'm not judging people in that sense that are gay, because I do think there is like an energetic version of it, you know, where they have so much feminine energy and they represent some kind of mirror in the times that we live in to bring this kind of knowledge to us, so we can now talk about it. You know, God provides His own language in that sense to understand reality. So they have a function, and they are human as well. So we need to respect each other. But there's definitely, with the hormonal disturbances and the brainwash programs, there's definitely a massive effort to turn Western men gay. That's another, you know, topic in that again. But to bring it back to the alpha ape and anger and violence and normalizing this thing and projecting it on others. And there again, mainly the white man is a massive target for this Afro-American group, for example, but it's bigger than that. In reality, these people are angry at their own parents, you know. This is where that pain comes from. That pain that they bring into the world, for all of us, it functions like that. You know, I can also see it in myself. I'm not saying that I'm better than them or that I'm, you know, I just did more searching. There's more. I have more time, maybe. You know, let's like even not judge that. But my intention has always been honesty, and what I see is like it really all leads back to how we were raised, like our own parents, like all this anger that you project in the world, like these angry young black men in America. Like it would not have happened if they would have their father present, and if their father would have been a gentleman, not some aggressive macho ape. Like acting to be a gentleman. No, a real man that realizes, like, look son, we're one, okay? It's okay to feel emotion, but don't use it as something to justify your actions with. You have to get beyond it. You're stronger, you're deeper, you're one, you're powerful, you know. And this is, and not just with black people, this is all over the world lacking in
Parenthood.
any group. You know, I wasn't raised like this, you were not raised like this, you know, but I will raise my children like this. And
We were
and
raised in
you know,
in a hard way, Ruben. If I speak for myself, I think you as well.
yeah.
I was raised with a strong hand. My father was very dominant, and I'm very thankful for that because it made me to who I am. But it did not change my softness. And in softness, I mean my empathy towards the world. You
Hmm.
know, I was misunderstood by my father in that. And I think that my father just wasn't able to do it himself. I was too much of a trigger. And I trigger a lot of people, as you know. And I think now I see it as a blessing because that's when this demon comes out, and then you can heal that demon.
Yeah, it becomes visible. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
took it
true.
personal. In my past, I took it personal. Of course, now I'm in a stage of my own evolution where I understand that actually it's a gift that I trigger people by just being me.
As long as you don't intend to actually trigger them, you know, like
Yeah, yeah.
this is what I found. I'm obviously super triggering person myself in daily life, like probably even more so than you. I had a lot of experiences with people attacking me also physically in the past, you know, that kind of thing. But that's already a while ago, um, when I didn't have my words like I do now. But the main thing that I found is that, and I realized this quite young without even understanding it myself, that the moment that you're triggered is the moment you're getting a gift.
You're
Because the
getting.
moment that you're triggered, you can go inside. You're right. You point your finger, three fingers point back. So you get this gift to look like beyond that emotion, to breathe, to go under it, like, and heal that belly of the beast, man, because that's where it is. It's like it's your own belly, that belly of the beast. And it's this gut feeling that most people blindly follow.
Hmm.
And this is a massive problem in the spiritual, so-called spiritual scene, you know. Well, it is spiritual because it's an invisible energy. When they feel uncomfortable, they take that as that the thing that makes them uncomfortable is not true. Oh, this doesn't feel
Yeah,
good, you know,
and
and
that's
they push it
protective,
away.
right?
They
Yeah,
use it as an excuse
you
to
make me
close
feel that way.
down
So yeah,
to reason, and usually it's accompanied by a label, right? They call
yeah.
you a racist or a extreme left or extreme right or extreme something extreme. You know, they label you, thereby dehumanizing you, in order to justify that they deny their own mirror. So they deny their own divine being, their own reality, by doing so, based on some gut feeling. But that gut feeling, this is the big challenge for humanity: repetition. When they repeat all these messages, and suggestion is how they do it. So there's the illusion of choice, right? There's all these different news channels, there's all these different artists, there's all these different stories and books and experts and blah blah blah. But in reality, like, the whole mainstream is one big machine that is pumping out the same message in multiple forms, the same narrative. So we hear the same affirmations all the time, affirming the bullshit. And then we start adopting it because it's coming from so many angles. So it's the illusion of choice
The
and the
noise.
illusion of freedom. And then we're programmed. And then that belly is there. And it's the belly of the beast. It's what makes that dragon breathe fire towards the trigger. Well, actually, the trigger is your brother or your sister that's trying to wake you up, that's trying to gift you something. Power. It's trying to gift you actual power, to make you realize your power. When you realize that that feeling is not you, it's a program. And there's a belief, there's a troll in the shadow, right? A troll is a spell. Something you assumed, some belief, some false belief is there. And in order to grow real faith in that law of cause and effect and start recognizing these triggers and that they happen for a reason to guide you on your individual specific path, you need to own this principle. And this is the main principle that I'm teaching in my life. And this is the main principle that I'm practicing in my life. And so far, I've seen people that were meditating for 30 years. Some of them have been drinking ayahuasca for 25 years. And I did some meditation myself, and I did a lot of ayahuasca myself. I had a lot of really powerful experiences, but some of these other people are just stuck. It's like they don't grow. They don't realize things. They're still the same. They just dress differently. They adopted this whole, this whole world of symbolism. But when you get into communication about real life topics, like mass immigration, GMO, poisoning of people,
it's
war in Iran, whatever. They're a bunch of programmed sheep. So that in itself doesn't do it. This mechanism that I'm describing of owning your emotions and searching for truth, so opening up to reason, going into that conversation with that person that has a different opinion, and realizing that your emotions are not the truth, that there is a deeper layer.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I found that really, really wakes people up. Mm-hmm. And this is why censorship is the absolute evil. I mean, like, if you see, like, oh, we're not talking to Putin, we're not opening up to that conversation, we shouldn't talk to him, then you already know who's wrong. The one that doesn't want to talk is the one that's wrong, per definition.
It's all about taking responsibility for your own nervous system. You are not responsible for someone else's reaction. We see this over and over again in relationships. Relationships are mirrors, and if you look at the word relationship, it is a literal ship. And if you do not navigate that together, well, then the ship perishes, and that's what we see a lot happen as well. I think it's a beautiful gift, and I think that's something we can teach people for sure, because we have a lot of experience in being triggered and triggering others, especially with our childhood. We've had a pretty difficult childhood, which made us to who we are today. And which also brought us to a higher state of awareness of all these emotions within us. Because as I see it, our body is a temple, emotions are invitees, so they are not who we are. But if the emotion, so anger, hate, whatever, takes over, then you are not at the steering wheel anymore. And that's how we have to see it. So,
it's like we shift gears. Like there's what they call the Holy Spirit, right? Which is holistic perception. Like our spirit is our perception, the spirit that we operate in. So if we see that everything happens for a reason and that everything is our reflection and live and let live as a result of that perception, unity consciousness, heaven can come to earth. But the moment that we lose ourselves in an emotion and we project that upon the other, we are in a limited spirit. And that limited spirit has its own narrative, which has been built over our own lives. The things that pissed off us, that angered me in my life. I can feel it now, because I can speak freely in this space, and in daily life that has happened very little, about these topics, and I can feel that I get all fired up, right? I can feel like a kind of energy that's very strong, that has been built up in me, and this is also emotion. Mm-hmm. So as long as we can keep our words clear, be impeccable with our words, not take things personal, this can flow. And it's like a cork, it's like this pressure has been building up in this belly of the beast, so to say. But the moment that we can open up in a space, there's usually a lot of energy behind it first, and then it kind of starts to go to this more flowy stream of life, you know. And people are afraid generally of that initial foam, you know, when the cork pops off, you know, there's initial foam coming,
Yeah.
because that's not really that controllable. Like people can say things also that they don't mean and whatever. So when we hold space, and this is what requires a strong spine and strong men, you know, for our women, for example, because women can be very like bomb, you know, like emotionally all over the place, of course.
We have to be the
They
rock.
need regulation. They need
Yeah.
us to not interrupt straight away, which is for me very challenging as well. When words are spoken that are not true, you know,
Yeah.
then I'm like instantly chopping. But I shouldn't. I should wait. I should wait till that foam has come out and the stream has neutralized, and then when that connection is restored, and when she, you know, first maybe give her a hug, you know, and
Mm.
then when that regulation, because that's grounding, that's bringing that spirit to earth, you know, to the body, and then when that is there, the connection, then we can speak about the content. But that
Yeah.
connection is first and the content is second, you know. So there is this space holding that is needed, that requires us to really like get beyond our own triggers,
Yeah.
and that's the real alpha male.
Yeah,
That's
because
the real leader.
when you react, you're actually taking the role of the woman. The woman should be able to react in all safety without judgment from her man, and the man should just be a good listener. And I am curious. We are heading towards the end of this episode. I'm curious if our audience resonates with these topics. Let us know down in the comments what are your own inspirations and philosophies in that regard. Maybe we can head towards the end of this episode, brother. Do you have something you would like to say to sort of complete this circle?
Well, yeah, because the thing about women reacting, and normalization of violence that kills the real bond between brothers. This also happens, of course, at home with the women. You know, like we see this trend now with this like so-called red pill movement of the basically the toxic masculine. It's like feminism for men. You know, these guys who are saying that you should forbid your women to have male friends, and you should forbid your women to your woman to do all these you know, things. Like that's not at all how it works, and
No,
that's a
that's not
very
purity.
insecure, weak little man that is thinking like that. You know, because definitely I have female friends, like, and I'm not at all like tempted to do anything with them. Like my wife is not jealous of that, you know, and it's a very enriching thing to our lives. So this whole mentality of forcing women to be a certain way, and also physically hitting them if they don't obey, which is being normalized also in some Western circles now. They are prepping the mind to adopt this extremist kind of way of thinking, which I think won't last long, because it's not how happiness functions, it's not how life works, you know, it's not how love thrives on this planet.
Mhm.
And there is an element of truth, of course, that's based on, because I don't think this feminism thing has destroyed a lot, basically. Let's put that first. That's true. But in reality, like if my wife would give me a slap, if I would be crossing a boundary verbally, and I would be like super intense with her, and she would become so frustrated and she would slap me in the face, I wouldn't slap her back. You know, and I had this before with with someone who did that twice, as hard as she could. I don't slap back. Like I think that's you know, I just tell her off. I grab her hands. I'm not going to stand there and take it, you know, but I do stop it. But to then, like, there is a feedback in that, and we men are very easy to underestimate our own power when we're speaking to women. We're easily dominating them generally. Easily. Very easily. So This is something that we treat them like men. When we would slap them back, we treat them like men. While she's actually desperate and not at all a physical threat, right? I'm much stronger. So that mentality needs to go. You know, that's again this weakness. Just accept the mirror that you get, you know. The mirror doesn't change. When you beat her back, the mirror just becomes worse and bigger. You brought more violence into the world. You're the one in power, you know. So to own that mirror. That's the only thing I wanted to add for now. We can talk endless about these topics, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But we have other episodes for that.
Yes, an hour is already enough, I guess.
Yeah. I also have some stuff on my mind that I wanted to share, but I will keep it for the next episode. Thank you, brother, for this amazing conversation once again. Lovely people, if you liked this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Share this with people you might think would resonate with this, because the more people we reach, the more people we can inspire, the more we can evolve towards the collective butterfly. Thank you, and see you in the next transformation.
Thanks.